At the end of the day, it's not about what you have or even what you've accomplished. It's about what you've done with those accomplishments. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back. Denzel Washington. Welcome to Inspire Vision. Our sole purpose is to elevate the lives of others and to inspire you to do the same.
Lynda, welcome.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
It's good
Yeah.
it's
It's
good to
gonna be a
have
great
you here.
conversation.
Yeah, it's great. So let's get started by you sharing with the audience who you are, what is your background, and what brought you to the point of doing what you're doing now.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I am Lynda Samphire, and I work as an intuitive guide and integration therapy. I incorporate modalities like Dreamwork, sleep hygiene, microdosing plant medicines, and I kind of started my journey really young. My journey began with this really deep early loss where my mother passed when I was just 2 years old. So while I couldn't name it, something on the inside of me just kind of learned to live in that survival mode, just that functioning anxiety, by staying high functioning, super aware, and emotionally armored. And all the while operating from this place where everything on the outside looked okay, but on the inside was a lot of chaos. So for years, I really chased that healing effort, all the modalities, the different courses, the different classes, and it wasn't sticking. It wasn't, I was more based in proving my worth, earning my love, and all the while, it really was my deep unworthiness. So I've been running my practice in the healing arts for about 20 years, but about 5 years ago, I shut the whole thing down, kept a handful of clients, not grasping, not gripping, and not holding sustainable for me. So I felt flat. And so I thought, okay, I'm just going to invest in myself. And that's when I went into it. And it was life-changing for me. The last few years have catapulted my life forward more than they have in the 15 to 20 years prior to that. So that's how I got started.
Well, and you talk about plant medicine, and I always just kind of pull back a little bit on that.
Sure.
And it's my understanding, I know that as I've talked to various people, for instance, I have learned that many psychologists are starting to very carefully use mushroom plant medicine in order to help people with PTSD and some of those types of things. And I'm always curious about, because as I'm sure you know, it can be so misused, and people are out there using it for totally other reasons of just getting off and so on and so forth. So number one, how do you use it? And number two, how do you justify it so that it doesn't become something that becomes habitual for someone, which can literally ruin their life, versus using it in the way that you do that can help someone? And what does it actually do for someone, the way that you do it?
Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, everything you said, very, very important. How do we align with the medicines for what they're here for? And in general, we're out of rhythm. We're completely out of rhythm. And these medicines, I believe, are bringing us back to rhythm, not as a fixing, but as a remembering, as a tool. So to be aware that this is not a pill, like a pill we take and everything's fixed. This is a medicine that's been here since day one, right? And as an ally to guide us along with the breath work, the integration, the therapy, all the other things that we bring in, it just kind of adds to the circle. And first, it's really important to understand that they're not addictive. So we don't take the medicines and then all of a sudden need or want more. And it also depends on the type of medicine that we're using and why we're using it. So I work with two particular ones, which is Amanita muscaria, and that's the red and white mushroom, and then psilocybin. And Amanita muscaria restores the body. So if you look at Amanita as tilling the field, psilocybin is going to come in and aerate. So psilocybin is going to bring these emotions to the surface. It's going to knock on the door. So if we are destabilized in our life, if we are not in a place where we can create space, it's not a time to start microdosing. And then to understand that microdosing is a very sub-perceptual level. We're not feeling altered. We can continue throughout our day. And so if we tune in to our bodies and we are looking at, okay, this is not a good time for me to microdose. I'm in the middle of a move. I'm going through divorce. I like to move people over to Amanita muscaria. Amanita muscaria works with our GABA receptors. So it soothes our central nervous system. So it creates a very calming, soothing effect through the body to where it restores the system. And this is where I think is key, because I see people showing up, yes, for these ceremonies over and over and over again, the overuse of the medicines, they're journaling, they're meditating, but something's not gripping. It's because that nervous system is so dysregulated. Amanita muscaria works with the GABA receptor, directly working with the central nervous system. Psilocybin and other psychedelics are working with our 5-HT serotonin receptors.
So how important is it to have someone that really knows what they're doing? Because you talk about all of these retreats where they're literally overdosing. And, I think that's where I kind of really pull back on all of this stuff. Or where the individuals are doing it just to have fun and to feel better and so forth, without really medically or scientifically or consciously wanting to have, as you say, that calmness that allows them to start doing a little bit better transformational work. So how important is it to have someone working with you that really understands microdosing and guides you through that process?
Yeah, important, so important, because it's the container. And with all the studies that have been done with microdosing, and using these medicines, I really got the message probably about 3 years ago that we need to approach these medicines with a very feminine approach, a very soft approach. Because what happens is if we go into these big, large journeys, we're bypassing a lot of our stuff. And then we're coming back, we're not embodied and we're dysregulated. So when we begin microdosing, we have a container where an integration, like therapists like myself, is holding space to, well, I'm feeling super angry. Okay, let's work with the anger. Well, I'm tired all the time. Well, the body's probably asking for a pause. So it's about what's coming up. We still have to do our own work. It doesn't do it for us. And I think that's where it gets a little bit skewed, is where we need to, we take it and we're fine. We have to come out of the Western modality, take a pill and we're good. This is about bringing up stuff. So we're kind of deconditioning the body, and to have someone that knows what they're doing, the dosage, what's happening, what are we already taking, what medications are we already taking that are not going to pair well with the medicines. And so really, with reverence and integrity, coming into this with someone that can hold space and help you move through what's coming forward. Do I have clients? Yeah, that I feel so good. I feel great. This is really powerful. And they becoming the co-creator, but there's still work to do. Are we doing body movement? Are we eating? What's our nutritional level? All these things are important. So we have to do our work, and it's going to be a little bit more in your face. So it can be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and for those that say, you know what, I just do not want to do any microdosing, whether that's for medical reasons because of medications they're taking for their health or whatever that happens to be, do you have a process to work with those people and being able to work with them without microdosing?
Definitely. Many people do want to start without the microdosing. And I like to work with people in the sleep state. I think sleep's the number one medicine. And I work with the dream in the dream world and really opening up that part of it first. I truly believe that dreams are our original journey.
Well, and I know that the microdosing helps with the dreams. I actually, as I was reading your stuff, I actually started looking up what kind of tea could I put together that's not microdosing that would help me with my dreams. And I found a series of about four different teas that I could add together, the leaves and so forth, to help sleep and to help dreaming. And yeah, I just started it, so I kind of dream, but my dreams are crazy. It's not like, I try to interpret them and it's like they're just off the wall. They don't make sense at all. So how do you help people to interpret dreams that just do not make sense?
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? That's our soul speaking to us in these symbols, right? And if we were receiving dreams in like this, we understood it, the words are created by the rational mind, right?
Yeah.
So the soul is speaking to us in symbols. I really like to stay away from excavating, analyzing the dream, and I like to pick maybe like three big symbols. And then we're running those symbols through our body and we begin feeling. What does it mean? I am the red ball and I represent, right? So let's say that I have a dream of a red ball. You have a dream of a red ball. When I was young, I got hit in the face and broke my nose with a red ball. And when you were young, you used to go to the beach with your family, have a good time, throw around this red ball. So do you see how the symbol might be coming to you like, oh, maybe I need to add some more fun in my life? For me, maybe it's an imprint that is ready energetically to kind of move. And so we want to work with the symbols, not necessarily the stories, and really beginning everything as us in our dreams. So the soul speaks to us in a way that we can remember and wake up. And then just to touch on teas and medicines, this is why I use Amanita muscaria, as it
Yeah.
works with that central nervous system soothing and brings our sleep back and elongates our REM sleep. That's what we need. We need the elongated REM sleep so then our dreams come back.
Well, that's true. After I woke up this morning, I thought, all right, what was my dream? And I remember, but it was kind of skewed, playing golf, but just kind of practicing, and that was it. And so it's like,
Yeah, how did it
okay.
feel?
Um, it was a fast moving, and then I woke up. And so I can't say how it felt, other than trying to get everything ready to go.
Yeah, and that's the part that we've forgotten and have kind of disconnected. Because if you think about it, that whole sleep, that's 30 years of our lives that we are missing, where we're bypassing the rational mind. So if we can linger in just a couple more minutes and let that run through, we can get a lot of information about what we're feeling.
Okay,
You
so
know,
you
and so you're the golf ball, you're the golf field, you're the golfer, you're everything. What does that mean? What is that bringing in and then moving through there? I've literally spent an hour and a half with someone on one symbol, moving it
really.
through the body. Yeah, yeah.
So as you talk about the symbol, then do you get into the subconscious imprints and all of those type of things where it opens up that whole avenue for you to help them with the transformation?
Yes, and then we incubate it that night into another dream. So we begin incubating rather than, I mean, we come into the imagination. You know, Carl Jung always said the two realms to the soul are the imagination and the dreams. And so we then work with the symbol not so much excavating, but just the feeling and what's coming through. And it's always these kind of light bulb moments. I'll be in a session, it'll be like this light bulb moment for someone, like, oh, that makes so much sense, because I'm actually doing that right now in my life, even though it was, I was on a boat and the boat sunk into the water, and it can have such a different meaning. It's not a linear, logical type of message.
Okay.
So bringing back, I think it's fun to look up the definitions and the universal meaning, but I like people to work with, like in my dream series I run, we always let the dream run through our bodies and really what it means, really what it's feeling, and then go look it up for some validation.
Where do you look up the
Oh
meaning in
gosh,
dreams?
you can Google it, you can AI it, you can do anything you want now with the symbols, but it's a universal, like I said, the red ball, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we have to.
So you've developed something called the Embodied Alliance Framework. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so the Embodied Alliance framework is really, first of all, I believe that everything inside of us, we have everything we need, right? So that kind of subconscious intelligence, and we've forgotten. So it's a remembering. The seen and the unseen, so to speak. And then with that, we bring in that dream work, and it brings forward that intelligence that we already have within us. Everything we know is within us. So then we start that somatic symbol decoding, right? Which is that next step where we, again, we just don't interpret the dreams. We begin somatically feeling them through our body. And it's interesting how when we start doing that, it starts moving into our waking life. Like it becomes our compass, and we start noticing these symbols. So we might start seeing triple numbers, or maybe there's a white car in the dream, and then the white car, you see it in your waking state. A pain in your shoulder is a symbol. When we start really paying attention to these, and we start working with this, and we start waking up these imprints, this resistance in the body, and it starts moving, we come into where we are creator from our soul, like a soul-led creator, where you can plant the seeds, and you receive the message from the soul, and you're moving that into your waking state rather than all that do, and you're more in this state of allowance and surrender into the self. So you stop performing, and you
Kind
start
of the
co-creating.
concept of stillness.
Say that again.
Kind of the concept of stillness, where
Yeah, observing ourselves, like we're assigned, like kind of like put us in a petri dish and start observing. That's where these medicines really bring us to that space.
well, and as you talk about working with people, and let's move aside the microdosing for a minute. What are some of the modalities that you use? I know that you talked a little bit about sound healing. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and how that can be effective for someone?
Yeah, so I'm a light language speaker. I speak light language, which came forward one day when I sneezed 3 times. It just came out, and it's the language of the soul, and it's a frequency. And by listening to the frequency, it's like music. It comes through, and it begins aligning us with our heart and balancing the body and putting us back in that state of soothing the nervous system. Whether we're using sound bathing with bowls, humming, just kind of like a hum, whether we are using chimes or light language or any of those frequencies with sound, it hits a frequency that soothes our nervous system and gets us back into balance and grounded.
So
So
do you use solfeggio at all as far as those frequencies?
I don't know. I mean, I use tuning forks and whatnot when I'm in person with someone, but no.
How do you determine what's going to be a calming frequency for someone? And I remember very specifically with one of my children where we went up and went through a process of singing bowls, and it really healed some emotional issues, and did not expect that, but it actually happened. And yet, we hear so much nowadays about, all right, here's a frequency that helps with this, here's a frequency that helps with that. How do you help people to determine which frequency helps them to really get to that point of stillness and calmness?
I share what I offer, and I'm very intuitively aligned with what I feel with someone. I work mostly remote, so I have experienced where I'm training in transpersonal hypnotherapy. So I think the voice first is getting them in this space where then a frequency that is used connecting to the heart. I mean, it's really it. We're coming out of here into the heart. And we can do that with so many different ways. My ways are light language, guided meditations, and singing bowls when we're in person, and tuning forks. So,
Okay,
um,
so when you're
yeah.
using guided meditation, how does that help someone get to that point? Is it kind of more of a hypnotic situation?
Well, it's soothing. Again, it all comes down to that nervous system. And if it's gripping, going into the parasympathetic, we might add some breath work to it just to get us into that state. I've also been told that my voice has a frequency that comes with it when I speak through the meditations. And where normally they just kind of they're telling me that they just drift off into this space of liminal in between, and then the light language comes in and they're receiving, so it's moving them into the space of receptivity.
Are people able to accomplish this on their own to any degree?
I think so.
How?
However, doesn't it feel good to, like, it's like getting a massage. Like, you can massage yourself, but doesn't it feel good when someone else is working on you?
Right. No, no, I totally agree. But I think that, how do people get started in this process and then realize that, oh, and I'm a firm believer that having someone there to help you as an outsider really helps. But how do people start this process, and at what point in time do they become aware? How do they become aware that, all right, this is a process that I really need to work on?
Yeah, I like that question. How do we know which one to choose? Because there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
Well, going into, let's look at like exercise or food or yoga. For some, this works. For some, this doesn't. It's going to be what resonates with you, and you're going to feel it through the body. It's the after effect where, okay, that really felt good. I feel good. So it's coming back to the feeling. And so we're choosing, like for me, I love yin yoga. It's very yin, it's very soft. So are we a person that requires more stillness, more rest, or are we someone that requires more movement? So maybe someone loves to jump on a Peloton, but this person over here likes to dance. It's going to be what aligns with you. It's the buffet table, right? You don't pick everything off of it. You pick what works, what feels good, and what you want. So that's how I approach it. I don't think there's a wrong or right way to choose. It's just, does it resonate with the heart, and it will be a feeling through the body.
Okay, and I think that's important for folks to understand that, this particular way may work for you or it may not. And it's up to the individual to try different things, have that curiosity strong enough to try different things until they start to feel that connection and realize, all right, this is what's working for me. Yeah, for me, it's walking. For me, it's
I,
walking meditation. You know what?
me
And
too. Yes.
yeah, and that's what really is great for me. So it's interesting. So, one of the things I know that you talk about is the ego and how that can sometimes disrupt that sense of peace, that sense of the heart. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, about the ego when it's leading versus aligned. I believe that balance of the ego, balance of the soul, spirit, the polarities, the dualities of life include both. Um, and so, how do we bring the ego in so it kind of dances with our heart and that we're embodied? And it's awareness. It really comes down to awareness and going inward and learning about ourselves and being observing on what's outside of ourselves, but what's happening in here. And it's interesting too, because when people are working with their intuition, they get confused over, well, is this being said or is that being said? If the ego is out of alignment, not healed, you're going to get a lot of negative talk. But if you want to sit down and pay the bills or drive to point A to point B, you kind of need the ego and the memory. What happens though is when it's out of balance, we don't have room for divine wisdom to come in and flow through. So we're wanting it to kind of move like this, the soul and the ego working together. And so becoming aware of where we're choosing from, are we reacting, are we responding, and are we in receptivity mode? And so I think that making friends in a sense with our ego and saying, yeah, you're along for the ride, but you're not taking over is really important, and getting to know how it functions in your life without thinking it's wrong. Right.
Well, and as you talk about reacting, responding, that really is the ego saying, I've got to be right, I am right, and so on and so forth. And we get into all these unfortunate conversations with people who both have strong egos that they need to be right. And all of a sudden you have a total lack of conversation and communication, which is a shame. So how does someone start to recognize that, all right, my ego is starting to play negatively in my life? And how do they start to reduce that to the point where, as you say, there's that synergy between the ego and the heart to where the ego isn't controlling?
Well, I'm always going to put in microdosing because the number one thing I hear is I'm more responding than reacting. Above that, though, it's getting to know ourselves and who we are and not apologizing. So remember in the beginning, I was telling you that I needed to prove myself, earn my love, validate. If we're moving in that, that's the ego. That is not in alignment with who we are authentically. So I use the 3 words: allow, surrender, and trust. So allow yourself to be who you are without beating it up, but then notice it, surrender into it. Yeah, I just reacted. Somebody cut me off in traffic. We are human. So I think it's about allowing these moments to happen and then choosing, right? The one thing that will happen is if our nervous systems are in fight or flight, we're going to react. The ego is going to be in there, and it's a protective mechanism. So I think getting that, especially the central nervous system, to loosen its grip, then we become the responders. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And with that, in responding or whatever, we talk about communication, we talk about talking, soul level communication. And what I find interesting is, for you, what is the language of the soul? If we really get
Symbols.
down to it, what is the language of the soul?
Well, it's going to be individual for everyone. And it's symbols. The language of the soul is symbols. It's soft, it's gentle, it's loving, it's a frequency, it's quiet, and we all know it, but it's stuck under the conditioning, the conditioned state. So paying attention to the symbols in our dreams, I cannot stress that enough. Like it is such gold and power. And then paying attention to the symbols during the day, the 111s, the 444s, the pain in my shoulder, have a conversation with it. The bird that's hovering outside the window. The soul is speaking to us through a language that we know and is very personal and individual to us. It's the serendipities, it's the coincidences. That is the soul speaking to us. It's quiet and it feels really good.
So if we find, for instance, I'm playing golf and a crow flies down and grabs my golf ball and flies away. So I've lost my golf ball because of a stupid crow. And that's where that's where I'm feeling. And that is not soul level language of the soul, is it? That's getting frustrated and so forth.
Well, yeah, that's the reaction to it. Yeah. And that's a really strong crow.
Oh, one day I lost 4 golf balls to crows.
Oh, well, they are the shapeshifters. Crows are the shapeshifters, and birds always are coming with messages.
Yeah, okay. So what's the message when they steal one of my golf balls?
Well, you're the golf ball. So what does the golf ball mean to you?
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. Just fun and challenging, I suppose.
Mm.
But it's not only
So,
me. Everybody talks about it. I'm in Thailand. All right. So it's a little bit
oh, and
different.
so that happens. Boy, the crows are super strong.
It's
Don't have
amazing.
that.
So yeah, and you have to use if you use a colored golf ball, they more likely steal it. But even when you use the white ones, they come down and steal it. And everybody, talks about the fact you got to watch out for the crows.
Well, I guess I would look at the moment the crow is stealing the ball, what's going through your mind? Are you frustrated? Are
Oh.
you excited? And what's happening at that time that you're being asked to pay attention to an emotion, a feeling, or something that's coming in?
I wish I had a BB gun. Not to kill it, but just to startle it.
Yeah, so where do you need startling in your life? We always want to bring it kind of back to ourselves.
Well, and what that tells me, and I want to point this out and get your thoughts on this, because as we look at our reactivity or response, but reactivity, what does that tell us about ourselves? And one of the things that I always talk about is the fact that, and you mentioned it, it's not do type of thing, but it's becoming, and getting to that point where you literally have become that sense of peace, that soul. And so when we see this reactivity going on, to me, it reflects the fact that, okay, I'm not quite there yet. I've not reached that point where my behavior is reflecting that sense of love, of kindness, sometimes of laughter, and sense of humor, or another crow type of thing. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you help people to get to that point where they're able to recognize, okay, this is a reaction which says that I still need to continue that inner work to truly become that sense of love and peace, which will then reflect in my behavior?
I love how you said laughter and humor, because it is, when you think about it, kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
I really think it has to do with paying attention to how much are we trying to control outside of our lives? Are we too much far out here and working out here rather than inward? And is it asking us to go inward? I also think it's really important to, we're not going to just do all of our work and walk around like Zen masters. We're human. We get angry. We become frustrated. We're happy, we're sad, we're joy, all of that. And I think it's embracing every single aspect of ourselves rather than going into resistance. Because really that war inside is when we judge ourselves for it. So when I did studies with my transpersonal hypnotherapy, my instructor studied Buddhism. And in Buddhism, there's all these aspects of us. They look at that. And if they're all floating around out here, we're not aligned. You need to bring them all in. So I think it's about allowing yourself to be human, allowing yourself to be frustrated, allowing yourself to be angry. And then that's going to expand the consciousness, and we're not going to get in all gripped up. Just allowing ourselves to be human and not project it outwards onto someone else, but to really own it.
Yeah,
Here I am,
and as you mentioned, Buddhism, that to me is so fascinating because the whole point is to get to the point where you no longer suffer. And as I read those 4 points, that those different levels where you're suffering and then you're learning not to suffer, and ultimately you just don't suffer. It doesn't mean that the stuff isn't happening to you. It's completely a mental, emotional, soulful situation where you've gotten to the point that when all that junk happens in your lives, as you say, you just accept it and let it go, and it no longer causes you to suffer.
Exactly, right? Exactly. It's not that we're not going to have these experiences that are heartbreaking or make us angry or sad, but it's about allowing ourselves to be that, to be messy, to be beautiful, to be amazing. And then we become more soul-led, right? We become more soul-led, and we sit in this this liminal space of old stories and then the new ones coming, and we become the responders rather than the reactors. I look at suffering as being a reactor.
Okay. And and that's valid. So one of the things that was interesting, I was looking on Facebook, and someone that I've met before has their podcast, and this was really challenging to me because they've kind of gone from this whole aspect of what we're talking about of transformation and all of that, the spiritual, when we call it the spirituality type of thing. And all of a sudden they've jumped to the other side of, oh, no, this is not good. This is not good. You're moving, and they kind of moved into a very strong Christian position that I don't think is very Christian. But at the same time, how do you respond to people to help them to understand, as you're talking about that sense of the soul, as you're talking about that intuition, you're talking about the language of light and of love, how do you help people to understand, particularly if they have a religious background, to understand that this is not taking away from those beliefs, but rather validating even to a stronger degree and helping them to understand the divinity which lies within them, which I think is important for people to understand. How do you help people do that?
Yeah, that really just kind of takes us back to like, how do we choose a frequency? How do we choose a modality? I don't look at there being a right or wrong religion or a right or wrong belief system as long as it's aligned with you. So this is about aligning and embracing what we already have, as long as we're not bogged down by limits and belief systems that keep us from becoming our most sovereign self. And if a religion and a religious background in teachings brings you into your most sovereign self, where we're not putting judgment outside, then I think we have to align with what feels right and what feels good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I don't think there's a wrong or right, but I think it's choosing what feels good, what feels unlimiting, what feels like love, right?
Well, and really, as you talk about it, that really is the key thing, is to learn that sense of love. Not
Mm,
only loving ourselves, loving God, but if we have that, then we are truly, as I said, as we've become, now our behavior exhibits that love for others. And in my sense of what's going on in the world and everything else, that's probably the one thing that's lacking, and that's the one thing that could heal this world if we all could get to the point of understanding that it's about love.
it really is. I think we get bogged down by that reward punishment system,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Reward if you do this, punish if you do that, and that skews it all. Yeah. Yeah.
So as we close, what would be a final thought that you'd like to share with the audience?
I feel like we are not here to be fixed, right? We're here to remember. And I don't look at healing as happening because of efforting, but I feel like when we feel safe within our bodies, when we align with what is true and authentic for us, when the soul feels heard, the body begins to soften and we return to ourselves. So it's not a big efforting doing, it needs to be a certain way. It's about learning about yourself, who you are as a person, and who you came here to be and who you always meant to be, which is a co-creator, a creative being, and moving out of the pleasing, the lack of self-worth, the earning and the proving, and coming into just who you are and aligning. And there's nothing more amazing than when you feel that.
Oh,
When you feel that.
okay.
Yeah. You just become the
Wonderful.
sharer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. So how do people find you?
I have a website, lwsamphire.com, and I have my programs on there. I lead retreats. I have dream series, microdosing. Yeah. So
That's it. Well, thank you so much. This has been fascinating. It's been a topic that I've never really approached with anyone before. So I
ah
appreciate your being willing to do that, and I've loved the
yeah. Well,
conversation.
yeah, thank you for being open to it all. I appreciate it. It's been a fun conversation, and I've never look at crows and golf balls the same again.
Absolutely.
Now you'll think about it next time.
That's true. Or at least I'll learn to laugh about it rather than get
Yeah, you're like,
upset.
what am I doing right now? Always just pay attention to what's happening in the moment.
Well, anyway, thanks so much, Lynda. I
Ah,
appreciate it.
thank you. It was lovely.
And folks, thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. Look forward to having you join us again soon. This is Dr. Doug saying namaste.